The Owl House is one of my absolute favorite shows of all time. Glitch does great things. Not always, but if there's anything they know how to do, it's give their showrunners the freedom to do what they want. So you can imagine my excitement when a new series by Dana Terrace herself was announced for Glitch, and this time around, she didn't need to worry about any corporate mice breathing down her neck. And the pilot did not disappoint. Everything from the storytelling to the technicals to even the marketing feels like I'm back in 2020 again when the crew was dancing around obscure lore drops through quick background details. But this isn't going to be a breakdown of the pilot, this is more so just my general thoughts leading into what I'm looking forward to from the series. So Knights of Guinevere has, without a shred of doubt, my favorite pilot episode out of all of Glitch's shows. It gave me a sensation I have not felt since Sunset Paradise, maybe even Meta Runner's Ron Warp episode, but even then, it gives those two a run for their money. It drew me into not just its concept and characters, but also its world and themes. Themes most of all. The other pilots have their merit, and while you could attribute their respective shows to various themes like the effects perpetual LARPing and disfiguration have on the human psyche, or relationships between different sides in times of crises, for the most part, these shows feel like they were made because they were cool ideas. Knights of Guinevere feels like a show that was made because the creators actually wanted to say something. And what is that something? The power and greed that massive corporations hold, dividing the lower class into sides based on arbitrary alignments, distracting them from the oppression of hard workers, and the perversion of past beloved IPs. It's no surprise that this was made out of spite after Disney screwed over Dana and the crew on the Owl House, but this isn't all just cynicism and dread. That's for the side characters to do. There's still a sense of optimism and wonder behind it all. We know very little about Gwen herself, but her characterization through context and subtle gestures is so intriguing and important in this pilot, coded and made to bring hope and light to everyone around her. But through an increase of greedy and callous actions from Park Planet, her face is now a symbol for the park's authority and control, a face that the oppressed condemn and hate. Much like how when people mock Disney, they sometimes refer to them as the mouse. But Gwen herself isn't evil. She remains her positive and helpful self, helping the two girls she once knew when they were kids. Despite her face being plastered on everything, Gwen is not responsible for how terrible things have gotten for everyone. It is the mechanized corporation of the park. Much like how in real life, the core issues of Disney are not the artists or the art's fault. They are at the fault of the corporate leaders that keep making questionable and oftentimes life-ruining decisions, straying the company's current vision far away from what Disney originally was about 100 years ago. This isn't even an allegory, this is happening in real life, where Disney's theme parks, which used to house many rides and attractions that promoted education and learning, are now occupied by soulless IP dumping grounds. All this to say, Dana and the crew absolutely know what they're doing. This isn't a simple haha Disney bad show. This is shaping up to be an in-depth commentary on how far Disney has strayed from their original vision, as well as how they and multiple corporations manipulate and divide consumers, which is like a whole other thing I could go into, but I'm on a bit of a time crunch here. The other two main characters are Francesca and Andrea, and they are both some of the best Glitch characters yet. They're a lot of fun together, even individually, having an incredible dynamic and banter. Side note, the jokes in this pilot are incredible, some of the best in Glitch's lineup. Maybe because the jokes don't awkwardly hang for long periods of time and are actually paced well. But anyway, an additional attribute to Frankie and Andy's dynamic that I think makes them really interesting to follow is how they represent two sides of a creator under the corporate umbrella. Andy has no choice but to follow the directive of her higher-ups to survive, and the expectations that come from that are very overbearing for her. Not to mention, it lands her nasty remarks from people she once considered peers. She holds a hushed but very prominent grudge towards the corporation she works under. Meanwhile, Frankie thinks that what Andy's doing is cool because just the act of working on something that's meant to inspire people is cool. Frankie is enchanted by the idea of Gwen in her original context, removed from the corporate perversion. Frankie admires what the company was aiming for originally, that is still somewhat alive in some places today. It's not hard to see Dana's influence on these characters from her personal experience, loving the things she's created, but despising the corporation that once shackled her. This is what I mean when I say there was something about the pilot that's different from the others. The reason I stopped making first impressions videos starting with Digital Circus was because there wasn't a whole lot to say other than, this idea is cool, these characters are neat, I'm looking forward to more from this show. But this pilot episode is virtually perfect because it shows exactly what it's about immediately, and there is so much to talk about. I've neglected to mention the animation up until now, but like, what is there to say other than it's incredible? It's easily Glitch's best animation yet, and yes, it's because it's 2D and helmed by Owl House people. I love the picture frames, the cinematography, the scope, the grandeur of it all. But for all the people rightfully drawing references to Owl House, along with all the gore and bleak locations and dark imagery, this honestly feels more in line with Dana Terrace's Skin and Bones. Oh yeah, I know my stuff. The models, the eyes, even the intestines remind me so much of Dana's other stuff. But aside from that, the design of the park is predictably grandiose. I love the lighting in this show, color theory is rad, and the Guinevere models are pretty beautiful. The only note I have for the pilot is that the score for the tense scene with the big robot is not very fitting for the scene. It's more chill than I would have liked it to be, but that is literally my only complaint. Everything about this pilot is perfect, from the animation to the characters to the world to the commentary, and especially the dialogue. Each line naturally flows into the next, and the interactions are paced perfectly. I'm a huge fan of it. Now, there's not a lot to say about this series going forward. While obviously a lot was dropped in the pilot, so much so that people are already forming theories, including a whole thing about the blue lung disease that the park's gases are causing, Dana and the crew thankfully know how to leave just enough questions unanswered to be explored in later episodes. I really thought we would explore Gwen's past, but I guess that's for the next episode. I'd love to see more Sparky down the line and see how he develops, and knowing Dana, someone's gonna die. But honestly, I know they're not gonna do this, but there is one thing that I want this show more than anything to do. Go back to weekly releases. I am fine with months apart releases for the most part, but the thing is, that kind of release schedule feels more in line for specific types of shows. It works for Digital Circus because while there is an ongoing plot, first and foremost, it is designed to be episodic, with each episode's main conflict self-contained. Now put this in comparison with a show like Meta Runner, and that multi-season series would never feel natural with a months apart schedule because each episode naturally led into the next, and whatever questions were left unanswered would be answered in the following week. The way I see it, months apart releases are great at keeping a fandom alive and giving animators time, obviously, but create such a gap between episodes that the show's popularity feels on and off. Full series drops are best for stories where episodes naturally lead into the next and are designed to be watched in one sitting, but the popularity is so short-lived that it might even go unnoticed. Personally, I believe weekly releases provide the best of both worlds, being just fast enough for the story to flow naturally between the episodes and the release schedule, but just long enough for its popularity to span over an entire season. After all, that's why they're called seasons. All this to say, I just want Glitch to go back to releasing episodes weekly again, especially if the stories are going to get more and more serialized from here. But I guess that's just wishful thinking. One last thing, I am really looking forward to all the different lore drops in this show. One thing the Owl House was known for that kept its fandom alive was all of the background hints that generated a bunch of fan theories. Never mind the Hollow Mind episode telling the backstory of Bellows through paintings, there were codes in each episode that spelled out entire sentences. And so far, we've gotten a QR code that leads to torn up storybook pages, and I'm so excited to see the book in full. And for all the people who say, oh, I hope this pilot gets picked up for a full series, I wouldn't worry too much. They will. They've picked up every pilot post-Murder Drones. The only reason they didn't pick up Ultra Jump Mania was because there really was nothing to be done with that. But here, there's an actual story, so there. In conclusion, Knights of Guinevere is very, very, very good. It's easily Glitch's best pilot episode, and it is easily the best thing to come out this year. The animation is very good, the characters are amazing, the story is intriguing, and the world and themes are so profound and excellent. At least so far. 9 out of 10, easily a better premiere episode than the Owl House's A Lion, Witch, and a Warden. Owl House is one of my favorite shows, but man was that first episode absolute ass. Though I can only imagine that was at the fault of some dumb corporate mandates. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go back to obsessing over Phineas and Ferb and listening to what might have been on repeat. Thank you for watching, and catch you next time.